Hi, everybody. This is Dan Stolbarger. Welcome to this week's Kafir Middle East Update. It's the week of April 25th. Looking back, it's Passover week. And so, just a reminder, make sure you grab the PDF PowerPoint. Always photos and more information than we have for this YouTube presentation. So, you can get that on our website at holygroundexplorations.com, or there should be a link right on this YouTube page. Okay, so we always start off with so as I see it, and the questions of the day. I think number one, and keep in mind there's been a bit of a lull through Passover week, a bit I should say. But question one, when will Israel invade Rafah? And there'll be an article on this, but I'm just telling you right now, I would think that something would take place before our report next week. And so I think there's movement. I think they're waiting for Passover to be over, but I do think we'll see movement soon. And then we have Hezbollah up north getting kind of more, just bolder. I mean, now they're firing and launching rockets that are coming close to Akko. And so that's the furthest that they've struck into Israel. And the sense is it's time. Once again, we'll wait and see on that. And always the question, is Israel standing alone? We'll think about that and toss that around. And then what in the heck is happening on our college campuses? And who would have thunk that we would sink this low and see such a dramatic increase in violence and anti-Semitism on our college campuses? We'll report on that as well. And then I just was privy to see the video that was released by Hamas with HERSH. Broke my heart to see this. It's the psychological warfare that's taking place at this particular time. And so it will be a reminder for us all to continue to pray for the release of those that are being held against their will, obviously, kidnapped, abductees that are stuffed in tunnels somewhere. So that's what's going on. And now let's drill a little bit deeper. We always start with our news bites. And not great news, but after this whole Iranian 300 plus rockets that were launched, the UN's nuclear chief reports that Iran now is weeks away, not months, weeks away for enough uranium for a nuclear bomb. And there's a part of me that just wonders, is there this, let's just tread water until we're close. This is Iran. We're close. Let's just tread water. And once we get it, everything changes. The IDF has informed the cabinet, the war cabinet, that it is absolutely ready for war in Lebanon. Just give the word. As well as we're hearing that the Rafah invasion is only awaiting a green light, a phone call, and it's on. So that's where we're at on this particular day. And then just some things in the background. Think about it. Over this last Passover week, we've had upwards to 40 rockets that have been launched, 30 plus from Hezbollah in the north, some actually out of Gaza. And with all the rockets that have been launched this week, just imagine for a moment what the world would look like if Israel launched rockets on a Muslim holiday as sacred as Passover is to the Jews. No doubt at this moment the UN would have been sitting in emergency meetings, but we got nothing but crickets now, right? An article in an interview with the AP, senior Hamas official Khalil Hayya simply says, okay, all we want is Palestine. Just give us what we butchered the Jews for, his words. And then it goes on to say, in this interview, he was just proposing. Here's our proposal from Hamas. We're willing to dissolve our military wing in return for the establishment of a fully sovereign Palestinian state based on the pre-1967 borders. In another report, I heard that, that was only for 5 years that we would have this ceasefire. Are you buying it? And then finally, this pier that Biden wants to give and construct, and no boots on the ground for the U.S., but the humanitarian pier off of Gaza. Guess what? On Wednesday night, this humanitarian pier was attacked by terrorists. And they're trying to blow up the pier that would deliver aid, humanitarian aid. And as we've said before, it's not the lack of humanitarian aid that's being given. It's the fact that Hamas does not want this to fall into the hands of everyday people. They're actually attempting to blow up the pier. Those are our news bites. A few articles. Now let's dig a little deeper with U.S. college campuses. Here's what was documented in recent protests on campuses in America. In America, let me say that, whether it was USC, fight on, right? The University of Texas, NYU, Columbia, some Ivy League schools. So this is what is being chanted. We are Hamas and bomb Tel Aviv. Another October 7th will happen to American Jewish students 10,000 times over. American Jews are, in a sense, Hamas's next target. A Jewish student got stabbed in the eye. Israeli Arab activists got beaten up. Liquid was thrown at Jewish students to prevent them from getting to their dorms. There was a human chain that was created to block a Jewish student from reaching her dorm. Jews are being told, just go back to Europe. The university rabbi at Columbia basically said, just go home, the campus is not safe for you. School's been canceled and classes moved to being zoomed in to protect Jewish students. Flags, Israeli flags being burned. Students are encouraged to become, are you ready for this, martyrs for Palestine. And then a Jewish Israeli professor is barred from campus because the university can't ensure his safety. Did I mention this is our U.S. campuses? And then an article, Wake Up America. And then alluding to what happened in Nazi Germany in the early 30s, late 30s, early 40s. Before Hitler declared war on the United States in 1941, there were Nazis that were marching in the streets in America. And today, across our nation, on college campuses, there are Americans marching as Nazis and terrorist supporters did. And what are they shouting? We are all Hamas. And then it goes on, make no doubt about this. When students, protesters burn the American flag, and what are they chanting? Death to not Israel. Oh, you'll hear that. But they're chanting death to America. And again, that has little to do with the outrage over Israel's response to October 7th. They are calling on an intifada against America because remember the great Satan and the little Satan. The great Satan is America, and Iran is using useful idiots to wage their war on our land and plant those seeds. That's what's taken place on our college campuses today. And then an article, because if you've gone through a Seder before, Passover, you know one of the questions that's asked, why is this night different than any other night? And as you go through the liturgy of the Seder, you know, it's like in every generation, there's going to be enemies of ours that rise up to seek our annihilation. What timing that the Passover falls on what's taken place right here and right now. So, as Jews around the world gather and they're asking the question, why this night? What's different about it? Truth be told, what's taken place at Columbia University, in light of the mobs that are there. Again, Benjamin Netanyahu speaks out and he says anti-Semitic mobs have taken over leading universities. They're calling point blank, in your face. They're calling for the annihilation of Israel. They're attacking Jewish students. They attack Jewish faculty. This is reminiscent of what took place in German universities in the 1930s. It must be taken in the most serious way. It must be thwarted immediately. It has to be condemned unequivocally. But that's really not what's happening. In every generation, an Arab Israeli professor wrote, "I'm leaving New York City today, and I can confirm that anti-Semitism is spreading here faster than COVID-19 ever did. The Muslim Brotherhood is a cancer on every university campus. America needs to wake up, and America needs to understand that right now your next generation is being held hostage by extreme ideologies." Anybody got an ear to hear what's taking place, these warnings? And then back to Rafah, and what's the article's entitled, "What's Next?" The Wall Street Journal comes out and basically is saying in the next week or so, Israel will move into Rafah gradually. They'll focus on the areas where Israel believes that Hamas leaders and fighters are hiding. And the fighting is expected to last over about a 6-week period. Israel's in the process right now of moving civilians from Rafah to the north, where they've set up refugee tents and camps, distribution centers, and medical facilities, as well as field hospitals. And again, get the PDF because we have pictures of this. And so it's all expected to transpire over the next week or two. And then, as I mentioned, I did hear and see HERSH and the message that was released by Hamas. And when we were in Israel, where you see all of the release our captives now, bring them home now. HERSH is one of the major figures on all the posters, an American dual citizenship, American Jew. And so after watching this and after listening to his heartfelt cry to his mom and dad and sisters, he then, no doubt, with almost like a gun pointed to his head, rails against Netanyahu. You know, it's just scripted. But the bottom line is, what I read was a senior American in conversation with reporters places the direct responsibility for the failure of the talks completely on Hamas. The fighting in Gaza continues because Sinwar is surrounding himself with hostages as his protection, and he refuses to release the hostages that are in his hands. That is truth. That is why Israel has to go in, has to make a dent in eradicating Hamas. So again, with everything, the sticks and stones and swords and arrows that are being thrown at Bibi Netanyahu at this particular time, once again, this all started because of Hamas. And Israel must finish, or else they'll never be able to look their people in the eye again. Well, a couple photos as we see. This is in New York City. Notice from Gaza to Jenin. Jenin is in the West Bank. Revolution until victory. We stand with Palestine. So that's what's going on in this week for our update. A reminder, we are going to Israel from November 7th to the 17th. It's a new tour. I hate to call it a tour. It's a new experience or expedition that we're offering. Holy Ground is calling this the land, the people, and the king. And as you know, Sharon and I had just gotten back about a month ago from a 3-week stay in Israel, seeing things with our own eyes. And one of the messages that's crystal clear is that Israel does not need visitors at this time. Israel needs friends. And so if this is a tour that would interest you to connect with the land, obviously it's amazing. If you've never been before, I don't even have words to describe what emotions you're going to go through when you actually walk the land. But we're interested also in a work project or two, maybe on an IDF base. We want to connect with the people. We're going to have Israeli speakers giving briefings to our group. We'll be with our friend Amir Safate up at the Connect Center in the Jezreel Valley. And then, of course, the land, the people, and the king. And we want to worship the king. And his name's Yeshua, Jesus, the Messiah. Interested? Shoot us an email, okay? Dan at hgexplorations, plural.com. All right, with that, God bless you. Shalom.